As the moon loomed high over the desolate town, St. Mary's Hospital stood tall, its aging walls a witness to countless lives saved and lost. The hospital had always harbored an eerie reputation, but on this particular night, the air carried an unsettling heaviness that seemed to permeate the corridors. Dr. Emily Collins, a dedicated physician with an unyielding belief in science, was preparing for another night shift. She was known for her calm demeanor and level-headedness, but deep down, a lingering unease had begun to stir within her. As Dr. Collins entered the hospital, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows danced on the walls, flickering and whispering secrets of the past. She tried to ignore them, attributing them to her own tiredness. Inside the bustling emergency room, Nurse Claire Peterson greeted Dr. Collins with a pale expression.
"There's something off tonight, Emily."
Nurse Claire stammered, her voice barely audible. Dr. Collins glanced around, sensing the tension. The usually bustling ER was unusually quiet, save for the distant hum of machines and the stifled sobs of a few patients.
"It's probably just a slow night."
Dr. Collins reassured Nurse Peterson, though uncertainty lingered in her voice. As the night wore on, whispers of strange occurrences echoed through the hospital's walls. Nurses exchanged fearful glances, and patients reported seeing fleeting figures, their eyes haunted by something unseen. In room 314, an elderly woman named Mrs. Anderson lay weak and frail. The room was dimly lit, the bedside lamp casting eerie shadows across her sunken face. Dr. Collins sat beside her, holding her hand as she listened to the woman's feeble words.
"They're here! The souls of the departed, they linger, trapped in this place."
Dr. Collins shook her head gently, trying to dismiss the old woman's words as delirium. But deep down, a chill ran down her spine, and a knot formed in her stomach. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced through the silence, echoing from the darkened hallways. Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson exchanged alarmed glances before rushing towards the source. In room 212, a young patient named Timmy stared wide-eyed at the ceiling, his body contorted in fear.
"The monster! It's here!" he shrieked, his voice laced with pure terror.
Dr. Collins tried to comfort the boy, but her words fell on deaf ears. The room grew colder, and the air thickened with an unexplainable dread. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure darting out the door, disappearing into the depths of the hospital. Determined to uncover the truth, Dr. Collins delved into the hospital's history, poring over old records and archives. She discovered a dark secret hidden within the hospital's past, an experimental wing where unspeakable experiments had taken place decades ago. The experiments, conducted by a mad scientist named Dr. Malcolm Reed, were said to have crossed the boundaries of life and death, leaving the souls of the deceased trapped within the hospital's walls. Dr. Reed's sinister work had been covered up, but the tortured spirits remained. Armed with this knowledge, Dr. Collins sought out Nurse Peterson, the only person she believed could help her put an end to the haunting. Together, they delved deeper into the bowels of the hospital, venturing into the long. Together, Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson ventured into the long-forgotten corridors of the hospital's experimental wing. The air grew colder with each step, and the walls seemed to whisper their secrets in hushed tones. Nurse Peterson clutched her flashlight tightly, her voice quivering.
"Do you think these spirits are the reason behind all the strange happenings, Emily?"
Dr. Collins nodded, her eyes filled with determination.
"It seems likely. We need to find a way to release them from their torment and bring peace to this hospital."
As they turned a corner, a flickering light caught their attention. In a small room, filled with ancient medical equipment and decaying notes, they discovered a journal, Dr. Reed's journal. Its pages revealed the extent of his gruesome experiments and the atrocities committed within these very walls. Dr. Collins read aloud a chilling passage, her voice filled with horror.
These souls will be the key to my eternal power. Bound to this place, they shall serve me even in death.
Nurse Peterson's face paled, her voice trembling.
We have to put an end to this madness, Emily. We can't let these spirits continue to suffer.
As they continued their search, the hospital's paranormal energy intensified. Whispers echoed in the darkness, growing louder and more urgent. Shadows danced menacingly along the walls, taking on eerie forms. Suddenly, a spectral figure materialized before them, an apparition of Dr. Malcolm Reed himself. His eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and his voice dripped with twisted delight.
You dare to challenge me? You shall never leave this place alive.
Dr. Collins stood her ground, her voice filled with defiance.
Your reign of terror ends here, Reed. These spirits deserve peace, and we won't let you stand in their way.
With a wave of his hand, Reed unleashed a wave of spectral energy, causing the room to tremble. But Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson stood strong, their resolve unyielding. Dr. Collins reached deep within herself, summoning the courage to face the vengeful spirit.
Release these souls, Reed. Set them free, and let this hospital be a place of healing once more.
A cacophony of ghostly voices echoed, their wails and pleas reverberating through the corridors. The tormented spirits, sensing a glimmer of hope, began to converge around Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson. The air crackled with energy as the spirits formed a swirling vortex of light. Reed's menacing figure wavered, his power diminishing in the face of the collective strength of the trapped souls. With a final surge of determination, Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson channeled their energy, pushing back against Reed's malevolence. The spectral figure let out a scream of agony as he dissipated into nothingness, his hold over the hospital shattered. The hospital fell into a profound silence, broken only by the soft weeping of the released spirits. They drifted peacefully, finally finding solace and freedom in their long-awaited departure. Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson stood side by side, their faces etched with exhaustion and relief.
We did it.
Dr. Collins whispered, her voice filled with a mix of awe and gratitude. Nurse Peterson nodded, tears of joy streaming down her face.
We've saved this hospital, Emily. We've given these souls the peace they deserved.
In the days that followed, the hospital regained its former vitality. The whispers of the past grew fainter, replaced by the sounds of healing and recovery. Dr. Collins and Nurse Peterson became beacons of hope,